Welcome in, live from Kennesaw, Fifth Third Bank Stadium. 2's review from the booth. Atlanta United 2 wins 5-0 over FC Tulsa tonight. First loss of the season for FC Tulsa, second win of the year for Atlanta United 2, and the second time in club history that they have scored 4 goals in the first half. That one got even weirder last time around against Red Bulls 2 last year. But this one, they added one more in the second half. Aiden McFadden had a couple. We can debate man of the match. We've got a lot of things to debate. I'm Jason Longshore. John Nelson, Jarrett Smith are here as well. I want to start with you, Jarrett, because you were on the post-match media availability with Tony Annan and crew. What was the vibe from everybody after a 5-0 win?
The vibe's positive because I don't know if you can have a bad vibe after a 5-0 win. A game like that against a Tulsa team that hasn't not only hasn't been giving up goals, hasn't been giving up shots. And Atlanta United 2 racked up plenty of shots and 5 goals against them in this game. And one of the first things we actually, one of the last things I guess we heard, if we want to go chronologically, was Aiden McFadden talking about, when he was asked about it, he said, there were more goals on the table for them. He said he felt like there were crosses he missed that he could have picked out better. They could have finished. They could have finished a couple of opportunities more efficiently. That's a team that is feeling really good about itself right now, and really felt like they left goals on the field in a 5-0 win that felt bigger.
Yeah, John, as we were calling it, it was a little bit of a slow start. There were some misplaced passes, a little bit of misconnection, but as the first half went on, it felt like around minute 30 it started to click, and it was 4 goals in about 11 minutes to close out the first half. McFadden with 2, Allen had the first, Tyler Wolf closed out the half. Wild finish for the 2's.
It was, and it was fun to watch because when you saw the rhythm and, when we talk about how things float and flow, it just seemed like everything was working in just absolute harmony, and it was a fun watch because, as Jarrett said, the guys were saying after the match that there were more goals on the table, the combinations were there, and it wasn't, it was being processed, it wasn't being thought. It just seemed like everything was very, very natural, and they were finding their combinations and all the early searching that was there and trying to find those combinations really did come to the fore in the mid-30s and work their way through that 10-minute stretch to finish the first half.
The win moves Atlanta United 2 into second place in the Central Division, 2 points behind Tulsa. Both have played 4 times. Lou City's only played a couple of times. Birmingham Legion has 4 points through 3. Big stats on the board, 62% of the ball for the 2's, 17-13. Atlanta outshot Tulsa, 7 shots on target. Tulsa only conceded 6 shots on target all year long coming into this. Atlanta United 2 has 7. Tulsa only had 1 shot on target. Passing percentages for both teams, 85% for Atlanta, 74% for Tulsa. The duels, and this is another big one for a young team and a little bit of an undersized team. Atlanta United 2 won that 53-46. Jarrett, we went a little bit on the broadcast back and forth. I mean, Aiden McFadden has 2 goals. He's an obvious man of the match candidate. I thought Matias Benitez was excellent as well tonight. But Connor Stanley was one of the players who spoke afterwards, and we heard Tony Annan thought that Connor Stanley was the man of the match.
That's exactly what he said. When asked about Connor Stanley, he said, for me, he was man of the match. Connor Stanley was absolutely outstanding in this game. He talked about building the relationships on the field with this team. Stanley did. He said, we're all starting to build relationships now. They're only going to get stronger with playing together, and really spoke to the quality of the players that are there. He's coming from a unique situation, Connor Stanley is, because he's coming from the academy in Manchester where Tony talked about him kind of getting pushed to the side of it in that academy. In the academy, he's used to playing guys his own age. Over here, he's playing adults. This is USL, man. I mean, you're playing grown men a lot of the time. And he talked about the biggest difference for him has just been the physicality of it. Used to playing guys his own age, and here you're playing guys who are bigger, faster, stronger. They're more physically and mentally developed than you, and emotionally developed a lot of times, and will try and get in your head. he's got a really tough task, and he's doing so well with it compared to what I think a lot of us would do in his situation.
So Connor Stanley, second game as a professional at the senior level. He had been in the academy at Manchester United and had played, I think, up to their U23s a little bit in Premier League 2. Comes over, plays in Oklahoma City as his debut with Atlanta United 2. Tonight, he created 2 chances. He was 34 of 36 passing. And the one that kept jumping out to me, slowed down a little bit as the night went on, he was 5 of 8 on the dribble. Felt like you could not get the ball off of him. He had a couple of chances. It felt like they were trying to get him a goal, John, but Connor Stanley bouncing around from the wing to playing in the central midfield to playing up top really showed his quality tonight.
Well, what was your word of the night?
Interchangeability. I think I made it up.
I don't
think that's a word.
It is now. I'll take it and run, dude. Because
I gotta look. I'm not sure if that's even a word.
Well, but I mean, think about all of the different interchangeabilities that we saw out there tonight. You had center backs, and wings working their way and flipping sides, and I think it took a while for FC Tulsa to understand what was going on. They were playing catch up, it seemed, all night when it came to what Atlanta United 2 was doing out there on the field. And you mentioned what we're looking at with Connor Stanley when that starting 11 came out, and you saw Stanley, Benitez, and Mateus up top. I thought that FC Tulsa might be chasing shadows at points just because of what you're seeing with the 3 of them out there, and it turned out to be the case a lot of the time.
Yeah, let's get into the numbers overall for the group. McFadden had the 2 goals. Other things from Aiden McFadden, he was 80% passing. He won half of his duels, 7 of 14. Defensively, had a tackle, he had a clearance. He was really solid, also created a chance for your right back to get forward so much and score the goals that he did. He is a converted forward from his time at Notre Dame. That's still really impressive, and he's getting this system really quickly. Chris Allen opened the scoring. A holding midfielder going 51 of 53 passing, winning 7 of 11 duels. Allen also won a tackle. Stanley won a couple of tackles on the night. But this team, passing-wise, Mikey Ambrose, 61 of 70 passing. Coleman Gannon came in off the bench. He was 11 of 12. Lundgaard, and this is a big part of it, and he was involved in a couple of these sequences that led to goals. Ben Lundgaard was 48 of 57 passing tonight. He did go long 18 times. That's a little on the high side from what we've seen maybe Rocco Rios Novo do. But, Jarrett, this is something that Lundgaard told us coming into the season. He needed to get more comfortable in possession on the ball. He was excellent tonight.
He was, and that you're right. I mean, that is something he's going to have to get better at, and he's apparently taking strides to get better at if tonight is any indication on what he's going to do going forward. Competition also certainly helps here because Rocco has come in. I know he's a cult hero for a lot of people, but beyond cult hero status, I think it kind of does him I don't want to call it a disservice to call him just a cult hero. He's better than just like a flash in the pan cult hero who rescued you in Alajuelense. He's a legitimately talented player, especially with his feet. I think he's got a lot of potential. But that competition is going to bring out the best in both of them, and it looks like that might be the case for Lundgaard as he's gotten better with the ball at his feet. Yeah, you talk about playing long sometimes, playing short sometimes, but you can free up. You get those long balls, and it's not just about connecting on the long ball at times. Sure, you might connect on that long ball, but it's the second ball. Who's it going to fall to? When that second ball hits the ground, who's going to win that duel? Who's going to trigger that next movement? Is it going to be a Chris Allen? Is it going to be a Mateus? Who's going to win that ball and get things moving positively?
Alex DeJohn, 50 of 58 passing tonight. George Campbell in 45 minutes, 48 of 59. Mateus Sosetu in 60 minutes of play, 38 of 45. You had a chance to see a match with 5 goals in it. Atlanta United 2 wins big. But maybe most importantly, they got the clean sheet against a team that has been scoring goals. They scored twice at Indy over the weekend. John, that clean sheet is almost as important as the goals they scored.
And Jarrett, I know that you were listening to the post-match, and that was a point that was brought up in the post-match conversations about the importance of the clean sheet.
Yeah, the guys took it to heart. They were veteran players on this team, and when we say veteran players, they're still in their mid-20s. Because most of this team is teenagers, but the clean sheet was very important to them. The veterans mentioned that in the locker room, said, "Hey, we're keeping this clean sheet. We're not going to lose this clean sheet. We're not going to give up goals here. We're not going to give up something cheap, even if we're up 4-0." And yeah, the Post came to their rescue once or twice, but they managed to keep that clean sheet, and that's got to be a huge feather in the cap for the defense. Is what gets me about this team is the way they are approaching the end of halves now and the end of games.
Yes.
And it went from being a hold on tight last year at times to Atlanta United 2 wants blood before the whistle.
Yeah, that's a big, big difference. That's a mentality difference. And I think it's something that we've seen a little bit with the first team, and the number of games they played maybe piled up a little bit and made it difficult to close halves out. But with the second team, we saw that in Louisville against a really good team in Game 1. You saw it definitely on Sunday in Oklahoma City in a bit of a street fight with OKC Energy. This team that at times has struggled in those kinds of games showed a lot of the mentality that drove them late in the first half tonight.
Yeah, and also one of the things that we talked about FC Tulsa and their successes coming into this match. Joaquin Rivas handcuffed for most of the evening. It was a frustrating night for one of the guys that has been at the top of the Golden Boot standings for an entire season. The short sample size we have. But he's been at the top of Golden Boot. Frustrating night for Rivas. Frustrating night for DaCosta. Frustrating night for Matt Sheldon, who was working his way down the right-hand side in overlap. And so FC Tulsa couldn't get into any kind of a rhythm and was fighting uphill even in that first 30 minutes. Completely and totally clamped down on defensively, and it showed, and then Atlanta United 2 gets the 4 goals on the board to get us to 45 and beyond.
You keep Joaquin Rivas to 1 shot on the night, you're going to do pretty well against this Tulsa team. So, for the first team players, let's talk about them as a group that we saw tonight. Starting lineup, Lundgaard got his first action of 2021 and looked good. DeJohn and Campbell started in the back along with Mikey Ambrose. Mateus Osetu went 60 minutes. Tyler Wolff went 45. He got that goal in first half stoppage time. Out of that group, who stood out to you, Jarrett?
And it's probably because he's fresh on my mind because I had to ask Tony Annan about him. But Tyler Wolff getting goals in back-to-back games, and Tony talked about how big that was for him and his development and his confidence because Tony has seen him grow up. He's been around it, and he's been around this maturation process the kid has gone through. He's got goals in back-to-back games. It's a good finish. It's a really good sequence for Atlanta United 2 at the end of the first half where, for me, it looked like Tulsa went to sleep and forgot that you can get behind on a throw-in. I was really impressed with what he was able to do there. Drop back at times, did some defensive work. There's nothing really critical for me about any of the guys who came down from the first team, but seeing him get going, nothing but good news if that's the case, even if it's with Atlanta United 2. And I know people have expectations for him with the first team, but just getting going, getting that confidence and getting that rhythm can be so huge.
And John, out of the 2's contracted guys, McFadden, Allen, Stanley, Mateus, Benitez, who stood out to you?
Choice D, all the above.
That's not fair.
It's not an option.
Why not?
Well, we've talked about Connor Stanley. Who else needs to be talked about that we haven't yet?
Well, obviously you can talk about Aiden McFadden, and I know that you've been high on Aiden McFadden since day one. But McFadden jumping into the play, which is what is expected in this philosophy. If the space is there and you see that there's an opportunity, take it. Aiden McFadden took one in the 36th. 3 minutes later, there's another one, and that goes to, we talked about Ben Lundgaard once again, and that creates boom, 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 couple of passes, you're down, you're in the net. So McFadden, for me, is definitely one that you sit there and wave your flag about for jumping into the play when necessary and getting the 2 goals on the board.
Yeah, and it was him taking that long throw-in at the end of the first half that led to Tyler Wolff's goal. The substitutes, we saw Efrain Morales check in the 70th minute, Coleman Gannon, Bradley Camden-Feo in the 60th, Will Riley and Josh Bauer played the entire second half. Riley and Gannon combined for the last goal of the night. I know Coleman Gannon's one of your favorites, Jarrett. What do you think of his performance tonight in 30 minutes?
He did exactly what I wanted some of these guys to do, and same with Will Riley. And it's funny to me that they combined on the last goal very nicely. And we talked about this after the game Sunday. You're going to be competing for minutes at this level with this many guys from the academy and this many guys signed to 2's contracts. So when you get minutes, whether it's 60, whether it's 90, whether it's 30, whether it's 10, you have to go and take advantage of the opportunity. I was impressed to see them take advantage of it. I don't care if you're up a man and up 4 goals already. Go take advantage of it and go show some ruthlessness. I thought they did a great job of that. It was a nice little 1-2 between Gannon and Riley, back to Gannon to finish. Will Riley's another one. I think now seeing him in person for the first time, I swear he's filled out a little bit more.
He has. He's grown a little bit, like all these guys did in the offseason somehow.
George Campbell looks like a SEC linebacker.
What about Morales?
Yeah, Morales does too. Morales is sneaky. He's got that Thomas Davis strong safety build UGA days. For me, it was a matter of you got 30 minutes in a game. You're up 4-0. You're up a man. Go take advantage of it, and you did, and you were professional about it. I loved it.
Yeah, Jorge Corrales got his second yellow card in the 68th minute on a pretty bad tackle.
Yeah.
Could have been a straight red.
Yeah.
I thought the referee, Alyssa Nichols, did a really good job tonight. Her third USL Championship match, and she was in control the whole way. When it started to get a little edgy where Tulsa was getting frustrated, she kept it under wraps and didn't let it get out of control. I think we have a few tweets to finish up with.
Yeah, Colin Martz at the break said it was the best half in Atlanta United 2 history.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
John Rope says that the 2's were on fire. Kevin from Charlotte. Stanley looks to be a good player. Great control and quick feet.
Yeah, the thing about Stanley, he's a little undersized, and that's probably what is keeping him from breaking through right now into a higher level and getting more time with like the reserves at Manchester United. This is a great situation where you can bring him over and get this opportunity to play in a league with grown men and going up against guys that he saw tonight, like Corrales, like Kevin Garcia, like Mo Jadama, guys with MLS experience who are going to make him work. And he's got to figure out how to use those quick feet in tight spaces and deal with the lack of size at times. He was very strong, started to play with a little bit of a swagger, I think, as he started to feel it. Stanley is a player to watch in the long term. I don't know where he fits yet. I don't know if he's a true winger or if he's a central player. Or a withdrawn forward. I'm starting to think maybe more of one of those attacking central midfielders in the way we see the first team play. But Connor Stanley is a player to watch. He's only played 2 games. He hasn't been here very long. Mm-hmm. Give him time to actually get to know his teammates a little bit and watch out.
Last one on the board from Dan Graham will catch us up on Twitter. It was fun, but mostly it was 2's guys doing the damage, which was nice to see. They actually looked like they were trying to outplay the first teamers, and they succeeded.
Yeah, the competition that Jarrett's mentioned a couple of times, the competition is going to be the key for this group, and it's going to drive them all year long because you're going to see games like this one where the first team is in between games. Guys who haven't seen the field very much for them, they get the minutes that they need to stay sharp. Ben Lundgaard needed a game. He got it. He got tested at times. I remember one sequence where Mateos, Darwin Mateos, was caught trying to do something he probably shouldn't have in his own half. He's trying to go for like a nutmeg about 30 yards from goal. It ends up turning over. And Tulsa got a chance, and we could hear, not even on the crowd mic in our ears, but I could hear it out the window, Lundgaard yelling, Darwin! Darwin! like you can't do that even when you're in a spot where you're playing well. And it's good to see that accountability from those first teamers to the Atlanta United 2 players. But yeah, when those times come where Campbell, DeJohn, Ambrose, Hosetu, Wolf, they get their time, and they're going to need their time at different points in the season, it's going to be the McFaddens and the Allens and the Stanleys and Mateoses and Benitezes who are going to be key for this group consistently. And at times, especially late in this year, this is a team that's going to be pushing for a playoff spot. We haven't had that conversation yet with Atlanta United 2. You're going to get late in the year where you're not going to need the first team guys to come down at times to be able to get big results at home against top teams or even on the road. This is a group with a little bit different kind of makeup. I think they've got a chip on their shoulder. I think it's a group that has seen Jack Gurr move up to the first team, saw Lawrence Weick do that in the past, saw Ben Lundgaard do that, where they played well here on 2's deals and got an MLS deal out of it. The rest of these guys want that, and they're going to fight for it all year long. And they get, because they do interact with the first team, they get that it's not about just having a good game individually, but it's about fitting within the collective. And you look at McFadden's performance and you look at Stanley's performance today especially. Yeah, McFadden had 2 goals, but he worked hard off the ball as well. He was good defensively. Stanley didn't get a goal, but he was dangerous and creative throughout. They made the players around them better. That's what's going to get them those opportunities. That's what's going to keep them on the field.
If you go back to it in just the way the team is constructed, Tony Anna talked about the team being more matured, and the word he used was weathered. This team is a bit more weathered than they have been in the past. Now, they've had young teams in the past, but there's something different just with the makeup of this team. We were talking about it on Press Row during the game. Is something last year kind of clicked with this team, and you're seeing it not just with the veteran guys. When we had Tyler Ruthven in the past, when we had Jack Metcalf in the past, like you had these veteran guys who played with an edge, but it didn't permeate necessarily across the entire squad. It feels like it is now, where even the 16 and 17-year-old kids are getting out there, and there's, I don't want to call it a cynicism, but there's just this edge about the way they play. Even and some of these guys aren't coming up through the academy, who are coming from college, and it seems to be right there with them as well. So Chris Allen jumps in and looks like, if this was hockey, Chris Allen would have dropped the gloves and been fighting inside the first 20 minutes on principle alone, for no other reason than to set the edge of the game. But even the guys who are, who we might not associate that edge with, who are, more of the crafty skill players, they're carrying that edge with them. And it's really fun to see, and it's really going to serve them well as the season goes on.
Chris Allen reminds me of Jack Metcalf at times, to be honest. John, final thoughts?
Tremendous game, and I know that we were all thinking about the match with Red Bulls 2 last year, and just how off the wall it got, and how just absolutely crazy it was. But tonight was a different kind of off the wall, and it was one-sided, and it was great to see because you were getting goals and you were getting input and you were getting effort from a bunch of different areas. It was the academy kids who've made their way through. It's the college draft picks who've become a part of the process. It's the first team guys who were getting minutes, who needed minutes. And so it was a bunch of different ways, and they all came together after getting acquainted with each other in that first 25 minutes or so. Then it started to flow, and you saw 5 on the board against a team that was off to a hot start, that was in the top 4 in the power rankings coming into the game for USL Championship. I'm not anticipating that they'll be there coming next week.
We'll see if Atlanta United 2 gets more respect in the power rankings than the MLS side when those come out next week. The 2's are back in action on Sunday. What time?
3:30 in the afternoon here at the Fraction. It's going to be fun. So it's going to have to be a multi-screen experience with dueling matches for the first team and the second team. So choose your way of making sure that you get both games in your ears and being watched. It's going to be a busy Sunday afternoon.
That's going to be interesting, too, by the way, because it's supposed to be one of our first days in the 90s this year, Sunday. So that might be one where we see whose conditioning is what late in that game.
Atlanta United 2 now in second place in the Central Division, 2 points behind Tulsa, who they defeated 5-0 tonight in Kennesaw. I'm sure we'll be talking about this a little bit more in the morning. We'll be back live on Twitch, twitch.tv/soccerdown here at 9 a.m. on Thursday. We'll talk 2's. We'll talk about River Plate somehow winning in the Copa Libertadores with Enzo Perez in goal. He was so injured he couldn't even take goal kicks.
Build a statue.
Matias Benitez might have played for River Plate tonight if he wasn't on loan here.
I started to ask
with Atlanta United 2. Yeah, I thought he might have factored into that game.
Get a charter jet back.
I was worried he wasn't going to be in the lineup tonight because they recalled him.
He wasn't on that roster. He didn't make the 32 that Marcelo Gallardo turned in. We'll talk about that tomorrow. We'll have Nico Moreno of Pulso Sports in Seattle on with us as well to preview the big match this weekend, Atlanta and Seattle. Thanks for listening. Thanks for being part of it. Make sure you're following us at Soccer Down here on all your social media platforms. Y'all have a good night.